Hey, it's Max. This doesn't exist yet, but I designed it anyway. This is not my first time designing something that doesn't exist in real life, as I've also done a very bad G-class that I'll get round to sharing another day. When the Extrapolis 2.0, or Spider Train as I like to call it, was announced earlier this year, my first thoughts were how the hell do I make this with Lego? I hadn't and still haven't considered designing a HCMT because of those curves on the CAD. I mean, just look at it, but I knew something was different with the Extrapolis 2.0. Now before I get into how I designed it, I just want to say that this model is not finished, clearly, and that these are as usual all renders made with Studio, but I don't plan on building it anytime soon anyway, unless of course the Department of Transportation wants some promotional material, so I think it's okay. Something I learned from my G-class is the first step to designing something that doesn't exist, and you don't have dimensions for, is to get similarly sized things as references. So as with all of my mocks so far, I got my Extrapolis 100. I copied a few things from it, notably the chassis and bogies, and got around to planning how long the carriages would be. The way I've done this with all of my models so far is by finding adequate windows and lining them up to look how the final design will have them, leaving space for the doors and other features. Once this was done, I built a rough draft of the walls around them, going for an odd width roof which was definitely a mistake, but I don't seem to learn from my previous one, so it's just too bad. Like the Extrapolis 100, the Extrapolis 2.0's walls are made up of two sections, both of which are angled, but for simplicity's sake, and not because I was a bit lazy, only the bottom wall section of my Extrapolis 2.0 is angled, with the top section being directly connected to the chassis. I achieved the angle of the bottom section using a similar method to one of my older Commons drafts, using these pieces, which have to be placed at a very specific location and angle to make sure it doesn't collide with the chassis or upper wall section. The doors stick out of the wall about half a plate thickness, which was actually very easy to achieve with my self-proclaimed superior bracket knowledge, a skill that will come more apparent with some of my older models when I get round to showing them. It's not a strong connection, but I plan on revising the whole build in the future, and by then I hope that more parts are available in the right colours to make this work better. Despite the odd width, the roof was very easy to design by using a similar technique to my Commons chassis. Yes, the roof looks ugly with all of these studs. No, I don't care because I don't actually know how it will look on the final train. I'll get back to the roof in the moment, but before then the trim along the side of the whole train. It's made using brackets with a line of plates on the side, and actually covers up parts of the doors, just like the real thing will. On top of the brackets there is a long line of jumper plates, used to round off the trim and centre the slopes on the roof. So far I've covered an afternoon of work and been a bit out of order, but you all caught up to when I started the cab. And by started, I really mean did nothing for a week out of sheer terror. It took another full week of trial and error for a few hours every afternoon, and the final result isn't even that good, but it gets the general idea across, which is all I wanted from it, and that's besides the point that the real thing is, well, supposedly ugly anyway. The most difficult things about the cab to deal with were the transitions from odd width at the top to even width at the bottom, and the yellow stripe around the central section. Honourable mention goes to the PTV livery elements around the cab, which gave unending issues, but I think it turned out okay. After that nightmare, I finished up with the last few details I could be bothered doing, those being the pantograph, livery, and what's probably aircon units. I don't know where the pantographs will end up on the real thing, but based on their positioning on the Extrapolis Mega, I've gotten them wrong. The livery is an interesting one, not because it's any different to the other trains, but because the Extrapolis 2.0 is the first train with PTV livery to have an even number of carriages, so I completely ignored that fact and just mirrored the whole thing around the centre. When I started designing the model, I thought that since everything we knew about the train was from a couple of people who went to the mock-up in the Department of Transportation's website, and it wasn't even the final design, that there wouldn't be any way to find the dimensions of the train. And while writing the script for this video, I stumbled across supposed dimensions for it on Wikipedia, quite possibly the last place I would expect to do so. And after some quick measuring, I can safely say that the length of my model is within tolerances, but the width is way too wide and the height slightly too tall, which is to be expected when going in line. So that's my Extrapolis 2.0 mock. I've definitely forgotten to cover some stuff, but huge thanks to Australia Trains for letting me use his pictures of the 2.0 mock-up, and to Tassie for once again providing pictures of trains that exist. A link to both of them will be in the description. Thanks for watching, see you next time.